Okay. So 49. Pen. 49. Rome, same time. Why of all times had Roscani decided to quit smoking now? But as for 7 this morning, he had just stopped, stopped the half-smoked cigarette into his ashtray and announced to himself that he no longer smoked. Since then, almost anything had done in place of tobacco, coffee, gum, sweet rolls, coffee, gum again. At the moment, it was a chocolate gelato cone, and he was eating it against the July heat, licking the melting ice cream from his hand as he walked through the noonday crowds and back to the Questura, but neither melting gelato nor the lack of the nicotine could pull him from the thing on his mind, the missing Lama pistol with the silencer secure securely secure มันบอกว่า secure แล้วเลี้ยวเรือ secure เลยบอกตัวนี้ to its barrel. It was a thought that had come in the middle of the night and kept him awake for the rest of it. The first thing this morning, he looked at the transfer of evidence from Pio and Jacovalel had both signed at the farmhouse when Fellow had transferred possession of the gun found at the Assisi bus side to Pio, collect and let go. It means Pio definitely had the gun, and after he was killed, it was gone along with Harry Edison. But that was only routine detective work, not the thought that had waked him and had eaten at him all morning, and still did. All along he believed the Spanish maid Alma Lauma had been carried by Father Daniel, and was a definitive link between him and the dead Spanish communist Miguel Varela. The man set up to take the blame for the assassination for the assassination of the Cardinal Vicar of Rome. But and this was the thing, what if the gun but not belonged to Father Daniel at all, but to someone else on the bus? Someone who was then not there to kill him. If that was the case, then they might be looking not at one crime but two: an attempt to murder the priest and the blowing up of the bus itself. 11:30 p.m. Hot and sticky, the heat that began to build the previous week had not let go, and even that at this late hour it was still 83 degrees. Trying to get some relief against it, Cardinal Marciano had changed from his wool vestments into khaki trousers and a short-sleeved shirt, and gone outside to the small interior courtyard of his apartment, hoping for a breeze that might lighten the oppressiveness. The light spilled from his library window illuminated the tomatoes and peppers he had planted in late April. They had ripened early and now had fruit that was almost ready to pick ripened early because of the heat. Not that it was totally unexpected. It was July, and July was usually hot. For a moment Marciano smiled, remembering the small two-story Tuscan farmhouse where he had grown up along with his parents. For 4 brothers and 3 sisters, the heat of summer meant two things: exhaustive, exhaustively long days with the entire family getting up before sunrise and walking in the fields almost until dusk, and scorpions by the thousands coming in and sweeping them out of the house was a 2 or 3 times a day call, and one never got into bed or put on a pair of pants or shirts or shoes for that matter without checking it out first. The 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 sting of a scorpion would leave you with a welt and pain you would remember for a long time. The insect was the first of God's creatures that he truly dis- despised. But then that was long before he'd known Palestina. Filling a watering can, Marciano soaked the ground beneath his vegetable plants, then set the can back where it had been and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Still there was no bliss, and the night air seemed more stifling than ever. The heat, he tried to push it from his mind, but he couldn't because he knew it was what had started Palestina's China clock ticking. Every day, Marciano watched the paper and the global weather reports on television and scanned the internet, monitoring as best he could the weather conditions across Asia, the same as he knew Palestina was doing. Only the Secretariat would have a far more comprehensive manner of information gathering than he did. mainly because in light of this Chinese protocol, Palestina himself had taken up and study of meteorology, becoming a passionate student of the science of weather forecasting. In less than a year, he had become a near expert in the projection of computerized weather forecast model. Additionally, he established personal relationships with a half dozen professional was what weathercasters around the world with whom he could communicate for advice almost instantly via email. If the secretariat hadn't had a more direct agenda before him, he could have easily settled into a second career as Italy's chief weather expert. A prolonged spell of hot, humid weather across eastern China was what he was waiting for. With it, the sun faded away and its accompanying biological toxins would quickly begin in to clot the surface of lakes, polluting the main weather supplies of towns and cities along their shores. And when the conditions were light and the argale อ่านไปเถอะมาแต่จะ argale el elgar บอก elgar บอกเอาคำศัพท์บ้าบอไอ้เหี้ยมาแปลกๆตลอดนะ algae algae สาหร่ายมันนี่ algebra พืชคณิต algae 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 อ่านถึง algae สาหร่าย the algae mass large enough Patriciana algae algae วะซาน algae the algae mass large enough Palestina would give the order and his protocol would begin poisoning the lakes in a way that would be undetectable, making the cause appear to be that the algae and the inability of the aging municipal water filtration systems to collect it. People would die in huge numbers, and an enormous public outcry would follow, and government leaders would be secretly worried that the provinces might panic, and since Beijing was not capable of running the water system and threatened to pull away from the central government, thereby putting China on the brink of its greatest fear collapse. ยาวเถอะวะอ้อยยาวแท้ In the same way, the Soviet Union had collapsed and these government leaders would respond to a strong, very private recommendation by a long-time trusted ally that a consortium of international construction companies, many already working in a projects within China, be quickly brought together to immediately rebuild the country's entire crumbling and near Arche water delivery treatment infrastructure from canals to reservoirs to filtration plants and dams and hydroelectronic hydro hydroelectric plants. That long-time trusted ally would of course be Pierre Weggen, and the companies and corporations to do the work would of course be those silently controlled by the Vatican. It was the heart of Palestina plan: control China's water and you control China. And to begin to control the water, he needed hot weather, and today it was hot in Italy, and it was hot in eastern China, and Marciano knew that safe and unlikely and above change of weather over Asia. It was only a matter of days before Palestina would send word and the horror would begin. Turning to go inside, Marciano caught a glimpse of a face at an upper window, just a glimpse, then it was gone. Pull back quickly, Sister Maria Lucia. His new housekeeper, all let Palestina's new housekeeper, put there to let him know he was constantly watched, that no matter what he did, Palestina sat on his shoulder. Back inside, Marciano sat down wearily at his desk and began to go over the final draft of the minutes of the meeting of the day before, the new investment portfolio approved by the Council of Cardinals. Monday morning, he would put it for Palestina for his signature, and then it would become part of the permanent record. As Marciano worked, and immeasurable darkness in the form of question rose from the depths of his mind, one that lurked in the shadow of his soul, as if he were a living thing rising whenever there was a quiet moment to torment him. What they had allowed Palestina to become, and more pointedly, his own deeply despised inability to do anything about it himself. Why had he not requested private meeting with the Holy Father or sent a secretive memo to the College of Cardinals? admitting what he happened and what was about to happen and began for their help to stop it. The tra- tragedy was that the answer were all too familiar because he had wrestled, wrestled with them 100 times before. The Holy Father was old and altogether devoted to his Secretariat of State and therefore would be answerable to anything said unswearable to anything said against him, and who presided over the College of Cardinals more than Prestina himself. His esteem was enormous. His allies were everywhere. A shot of his magnitude would either be laughed off or treated with outrage as if it were heresy, heresy, or if his accuser were deranged, making it even more impossible was Prestina's threat to reveal him as the man who had ordered the murder of Cardinal Parma. The result that to the Pope or the Cardinals, the answer was he couldn't because Priscilla held all the cards and control manipulate them at will, complicating things far further. Further was the fact that what had happened had originated entirely from the secrecy and san- senex- sanctity, 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 and sanctity of the Pope's inner circle. The follow-up to a papal request to find a way to expand the reach of the Church in the next century. Any number of studies have been done, and proposals made before Palestina presented his deliberately and fully fleshed out, and when he had like the others, had loved taking it as a joke, but it was not a joke. The Secretariat was utterly serious. To Marciano's, although only Cardinal Parma avoided opposition, the others, Monsieur Capizzi and Cardinal Mattadi, had remained silent. In retrospect, Marciano should not have been surprised. Presidiana had obviously evaluated them all carefully beforehand. Parma, old school, strangely, strong, strangely conservative and unyielding, would never have gone along, but Capizzi, graduate of Oxford and Yale and chief of the Vatican Bank, and Mattadi, prefect of the congregation of bishops, whose family was among the most prominent in Zia, were altogether different. Both were highly ambitious political animals who had not reached the Panacles they had by accident, profoundly driven and exceedingly canny. Each man had a huge following inside the set, and knowing full well that Pristina had no design for the office himself, each had his eye directly on the papacy. Papacy? Papacy, knowing that it was wholly within Pristina, whim, and power to see either one of them there. Massimo was a larger creature altogether, a man who had achieved what he had because he was not only intelligent and decidedly unpolitical, but at he a simple priest who believed in his search and in God. It made him truly a man of trust and innocent who would find it impossible to conceive that a man like Christina could exist inside the modern church, thereby making it easy to use his wealth as an instrument to manipulate him. Suddenly Maziano slams his first down on the table in front of him. In the same instant, damning himself for the thousandth time for his weakness and knaves, knaves, even his own godliness. In pursuit of the calling he had been drawn to his entire life, if his fury and self-realization had come earlier, uh, he might have been able to do something, but by now it was far too late. Control of the Holy See had been all but relinquished to Palestina by the Holy Father, and the only voices against him, Cardinal Palmas, had been silenced, and Capici and Madati, Madati, Madadi, Madadi had bowed to their leader and followed him, as had Maziano himself, hopelessly trapped by the substance of his own character. In South Palestina had taken the reins, setting in motion a hollow that could not and would not be called back, leaving them all to wait only for the boring heat of China summer. ว่าสิจบสัก8 นาทีหา